Alright, here we go. Hello there. I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel. We're going to do some writing. Happy Monday to everyone. Happy Monday. Very cold Monday. I have been freezing cold all day. So cold. I don't know why in particular today I've been so cold. I mean, beyond it being winter outside, but it's been winter outside for like over a month now, so I don't know why I've been so freezing, but it's been a challenging day for me. But, you know, put on my nice big thick fluffy faux fur sweatshirt with my heated blanket on my lap, and I'm almost warm for it all, but you know, it is what it is. I do not have the means to move anywhere warmer, so here I am, doing my best to try and survive the freezing cold. Hopefully everyone else's day is going a bit more comfortably than mine, but you know, it's a Monday, so something has to go wrong. That's just the rule. That's just how it goes, you know? So, at any rate, what do you say we go ahead and get ourselves started? I don't see any reason to dilly-dally too much more. Let's see, I'm going to pull up for us. I'm going to have us start off here. A new week, doing some writing. We've been bouncing around. Last week we started working on like a handful of different... We started working on a new routine of adding a few different other writing projects into the mix, so it's not just always working on the same campaign all day every day when I stream, and I really like that. But today we're going to work on that campaign, and yeah, I think I'd like to give us just a quick rundown of what we've been doing so far in this campaign and sort of what the basic premise of the campaign is, so that way we can all just kind of be up to speed as we're sort of diving in at the beginning of the week here. So we're working on a campaign. This is an entirely homebrew campaign that takes place within my homebrew world. I have for a long time been a world builder just as a hobby. I love imagining different worlds and finding different ways to describe those worlds, to sort of invent and present a mental image to, I mean, as it's turned into other players within D&D, but just people in general. I love the concept. The concept originally comes from a fascination with the Myst games, right? Like the puzzle solving, sure, but just the idea that a book could contain a literal world, you know, as is presented in those games, was just fascinating to me, and I always got very, very enraptured in that idea. And so here I am now, doing my own world building projects and everything, and it's just great fun. It's great fun. So that's where my world takes place, or my campaign, the game that we're making, takes place, is this this homebrew world of mine. It's called Zaoria, and the nature of this world is, at least in the timeline that all of the stuff that I write takes place in, is that it's a sort of post-calamity type of world. There was an event called the Unhinging, in which if we were to imagine all of the realms, all of the mortal, ethereal, elemental planes, all of that serving as sort of like layers of water, sand, oil, all that good stuff in a jar where all the layers kind of separate but are still sort of in conjunction with each other. If we imagine it like that, the Unhinging was if someone took that jar and shook it up. So there was a whole lot of turmoil, crazy stuff happening, horrible monsters that didn't belong in one realm showing up in another, all that weird stuff, magical radiation causing all kinds of weird and crazy creatures to show up and things to happen to the land, and it just kind of created a mess. As a result, the enlightened races, or like the humanoid races, all sort of fled to one of 11 stronghold cities that exist around here. You can see them dotted around. Those were the cities that were most well protected, and also happened to be a ways away from the sort of epicenters of all of this magical chaos, and that's sort of what turned our world into what it is. A couple millennia later, things have slowly started to, you know, if we return to our layered analogy, things have started to percolate back into the layers. Not perfectly, but the sand settles, the oil rises, things like that happen, and so a lot of the citizens of these cities are starting to begin the process of reclaiming a lot of this world. Now, after a couple centuries, of course, things are forgotten, and people don't really remember what life was like before the unhinging. Life is just what it is, and that's what it's always been for pretty much everyone here. So the result is we have a world, and this is my favorite type of world to write, which is kind of why I've put it in this scenario or in this situation. The result is we have a world that just has a whole lot of forgotten, abandoned societies and cultures for players to explore and find things about, right? And that's sort of what fascinates me, is just this world of forgotten societies. I always think they're so fascinating to sort of, from an anthropological, archaeological standpoint, to go into an abandoned, forgotten location and try to understand what life was like before whatever happened that caused it to be forgotten. And that's the world that we're presenting here. So, the campaign that we've been working on takes place in one of these hexes here. I have it set up in hexes, and I like to put campaigns. I like to have an entire campaign contained within one hex. For me, that, because this is intended to be in an entire world, like a planet-sized world here, doing something within one hex is a lot of land to cover. And for me, by doing it that way, it helps kind of create this sense of large-scale things from the player scope, right? From an individual scope, this is a lot of, any one of these hexes is a lot of land. But from a world view, all of these things that might seem big as the players are going through them are just one piece of the overall puzzle, one snapshot of the whole picture of what's happening in this world. So the hex that we're working in, if I get into the right thing, is this one right here, which is a fun one because it's got a whole lot of different landscapes to work with. You can see we've got bits of the Goldenwind Plains, which are very Serengeti-like. We have the mountains here, the High Doom Mountains, which present a lot of interesting opportunities, both on top of and underneath the mountains. And then we also have the corner of the Siski Forest here. So we have a whole lot of different landscapes, which makes it a very fun setting to be putting all of this stuff in. Now, more specifically, we can pull up a map that I have made of this region. This is kind of the map of the region that we're working with here. You can see that it's starting to look actually kind of full and busy in here as we're slowly adding in more and more things to sort of take place within here, which is part of the fun and excitement for me of doing this type of stuff. So we have this campaign, and I guess actually I'm going to pull us back to the overworld here. The basic premise of this campaign is that as different cities and different people are starting to try and reclaim the world, one of the things that people want to do is they want to expand options as far as traveling between cities. There have been for a while established trade routes between these cities, but there's kind of one primary trade highway, and you can see that's this dotted pathway that goes along here. There's this one singular trade route that exists, and this is where all of the efforts to guard and maintain a safe passage are concentrated. They find it's easier to just have large caravans that bounce from city to city within these areas rather than trying to have 100 different pathways that could exist. There's just this one pathway that's kind of guarded and used. But with things becoming a bit more manageable out in the wilds, different cities are wanting to try and expand those options. One such effort is originating up here in the city of Phosphik, where the people have begun the process of mapping a pathway that basically goes directly south through the Goldenwind Plains to connect with the city of Muffafetting here. Right, so this is where we're kind of working here. And so that's what brings us to our area. This is the amount of progress that has been made on that so far when we begin our campaign. Our players are part of that effort, and they're doing their part to help lead this effort Unfortunately, as they're going through the Goldwind Plains, it turns out that the Goldwind Plains is the domain of a dragon. And this dragon is not super thrilled about our players and humanoids in general encroaching upon his territory. He, sort of from studying the abandoned stuff, or rather studying the stuff within the abandoned world, this dragon has learned much of the different warfaring ways of humanoids and is not super interested in having that come into his land. So he approaches this caravan and says, hey, I don't want you going through this area, you better leave. The humans will then, sort of make a deal with it. Well, not humans, but humanoids will make a deal with this dragon that says, like, hey, can we do something for you so that you'll let us build this trade route? We're just trying to create a better life for ourselves and our cities. Dragon then says, okay, well, there's this place called the Hall of Wisdom, which we can see down here, that I really want to get into. There's got to be something valuable in there because it's locked up real tight. I need 4 keys to get in there. Haven't really been able to search them, to search for them myself as I'm overseeing my domain. If you can find where these keys are located and bring them to me, I'll let you build your route. And that's kind of where things begin. Our players, of course, accepting the call to adventure, will accept this deal and say, like, hey, okay, that sounds great. And then they'll return back to our little city here, which is it's sort of an established midpoint village that's used as an opportunity to try and make it easier to resupply this effort without having to travel weeks and weeks back up to the main city there. And so they'll go back here, do a little research. They find the first key is located among the giants on top of the mountains, and that's what they kind of do over here. They go over here, find the first key, go back. All right. After that, they do a bit more research, find that the second key was with the dwarves in their ancient city of Cogdoral, which is down within the mountains down here. As far as they know, the city was abandoned during the unhinging. The dwarves were forced to flee due to all of the horrible things happening. And so our characters go there expecting to find an empty dwarven city. Instead, they found a dwarven city that is now run by Duergar. So after navigating that a little bit, they'll find that the next key is located within the treasure vaults of this dwarven city. And that's where we kind of are right now. We're working on their journey to the vaults of Cogdoral. And then that brings us to this map that we're working on right now. Now we already have, this dungeon is going to have sort of 5 sets of 10 rooms. And I use the term dungeon kind of loosely. It's not necessarily a single cohesive dungeon, but rather it's more like a chapter within the story. So this chapter will have 5 sets of 10 rooms that all have different things to work in that will all sort of like kind of puzzle piece together into being a single cohesive effort to eventually reach these vaults and find what they're looking for. So that's kind of where we left off. We finished our first set. Our first set of rooms, which is going through an abandoned part of the city. So the Duergar have kind of reclaimed most of the city, but they're not populous enough to really maintain the entire city. So they've walled off a smaller section of the city, and that's where they make their livings, all of them in there. And so the players need to first make it through some of the abandoned parts of the city before they can make it to the sort of tunnel routes that lead to the well-hidden and well-isolated vaults. So this first part here is kind of like a city center, Diagon Alley type of place that's underground where players can just kind of walk through and explore a bunch of storefronts and all that kind of stuff if they want to do that. There's an instance here where they can interact with some lost Duergar who were part of Duergar efforts to make it to the vaults that failed, and they've been injured and hiding out here because they cannot handle they cannot handle whatever combat would be necessary to make it through this area because this area is overrun with a bunch of nasty monsters and stuff like that. So we finished that part, and we are now working on the second part, which is, as the title of the stream implies, it's meant to be sort of a dwarven suburb. Just a series of households that the dwarves kind of would have lived in. And it's something that's not really ever shown a whole lot of in most fantasy dwarven societies, so it's been kind of an interesting thing for me to envision what a dwarven suburb would be like. And I have this vision, and I tried to portray it here, where it's like there are basically two routes I figured I could take. One of them would be sort of a more traditional approach, where it would be just sort of this wide open pit that almost looks like an underground quarry, that the walls have just hovels carved out, and that's where the dwarves live, around this big centralized open space, and it would like spiral up and up and or down and down, right? And that's kind of the more traditional approach, but I kind of thought about it like it seems like that would be a lot of work to excavate this big giant area on top of excavating whatever would be needed to create the little households. So I thought what would probably be more likely is, instead, like, there would be floors, but they would almost just kind of like carve out only the negative space they would need. So there would be this like, it would be like this well structured and organized set of tunnels, but still just sort of a series of tunnels that lead to chunks of rock that are kind of left in place, but then the inside of it is carved out to make a home, right? So it's like we have that big open space. You can almost think of it that way, where we've got like the big open space, but rather than it just being completely hollowed out, instead that open space leaves this like honeycombing nature of different houses and stuff in there, so it would take less work to carve it all out, and you would end up with these homes. And so you're just kind of wandering through just like this constant series of alleys that the doors would go through, and that's kind of what I was trying to envision with this. And I don't know how well that comes across on a map. It's hard to convey exactly what I'm envisioning with an overhead view. So I did what I could. Hopefully there's something that resembles kind of what I was trying to do that can show up in people's mind's eye. But, you know, it's like I say, that's kind of the effort that I really like. I really like trying to consider these types of things and figure out what it would look like and how I can explain that in a way that paints a picture for people. So that's kind of the environment we're working on. And we're at the stage now within this dungeon where we are working on filling out all these rooms with like the detailed things that can happen in the and sort of the environments of the households here. But each one of these is meant to be sort of like a small dwarven apartment almost. They're all like studio apartments. I always imagined that the best way to do an underground society like the dwarves would have is really for everyone to just accept that large spaces for a personal home is just impractical and wasteful and a lot more work than is necessary. So the king might have sort of a castle's worth of rooms within his carved out home, but in general the households are just going to be like single room shack sized places, because that would be the easiest, most space economic way to carve out a household, right? So we can see up here we've got a room is a single room, and there's a couple beds shoved in there and a couple chairs, and that's like the extent of it, right? Same with this one, a couple chairs and a bed. There's not much in the way there, and the dwarves would just have accepted that a lot of space isn't part of their lives. But that's just how the environment made sense to me when I was thinking practically. I mean, you know, the dwarves being a committed group of people who are always sort of painted within lore to be exceptional miners. You know, you can get away with giving them a situation in an environment where they would have to do a whole lot of extensive excavation, but it like I say, it seemed to me like they would also be a practical people that would care about efficiency. And it would be much more efficient to only carve out exactly what you need and otherwise leave the rest of the mountain. It would also make more sense from just a stability standpoint. I mean, you would have to worry about the mountain caving in on you if you carved out too much. So the more of this, like I say, this lattice work, this honeycombing of leaving some stone intact as you're carving out what you need would help provide sort of a meshwork support system that would allow for the mountain to stay sturdy and them to continue going, right? And I also imagine a lot of this too would be like, if they're mining for precious metals like golds and whatnot, then of course they would follow the veins, but that's just it. They would follow the veins. They wouldn't just hollow out an entire area. They would hollow out what is valuable and leave the rest there. So I also kind of imagine that a lot of these suburban areas, right, are sort of making use of, like, suppose there was a direct alley for a vein that was cut out, right, or a network, like a negative space spider web type of network of different pathways and hallways and stuff like that surrounding all kinds of large chunks where there just wasn't any of those veins. And so they could kind of recycle these now used up mines to create households and stuff. It's sort of, that's what I always imagined for the dwarves, and so that's kind of how we end up here with this way of setting up our area. So that's what we're working on, and I suppose that means the next thing to do is just to actually work on it, right? Because that's what we're here for. That's what I try to be here for. I don't know though. I think it's worthwhile to pause and reconsider and discuss the visions like the sort of vision that we have for what we're making and what the goal is and why it is the way it is, right? Because it is, I mean, especially when you're trying to tell a story through nothing but environmental descriptions for players, right? Because they're the ones who are telling the actions of the story, if that makes sense. You know, it's like they're in charge of the story beats, so I'm in charge of setting the set pieces. So it's really important that I be thoughtful. And consistent in how I'm making and describing this world. So I think it's really good to make a regular habit of reconsidering everything that we've already done. Hey there, Takirosh. I don't know how to put the emphasis on there, but hello there. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name too much, and thank you for joining. Welcome from Norway. Look at that. Look at us get a nice diverse crowd right off the bat. I love it. It's one of the magical things about the internet, isn't it? Like, two people that would never ever have any reason to interact in an entire lifetime on this world are suddenly here at the same moment. Like, it's just such a cool concept. I don't know. I think that's really cool. So I love it. Welcome. Glad you're here. So if we're gonna get back to writing a little bit here, we gotta fill in all the details of these houses. And one thing that's kind of a challenge for me here is thinking about particularly this room that this room that we're about to do next, this puzzle room. One of the challenges if we're doing a dwarven suburban area is trying to figure out exactly what motivation there would be for there to be some strange puzzle. And it seems to me like the puzzle might be more so an inadvertent one, right? Because you have some puzzles that are like a very intentionally created puzzle for the sake of keeping someone out or something along those lines. But a lot of times a puzzle can be just sort of like a generalized mystery, right? Or just a generalized obstacle, like an obstacle for players to have to make it through. So let's see here, making a D&D villain, Storm Giant. The roll for initiative. I'm wondering if there's a culture discrepancy, because I don't know if I know the relevance there. Oh wait, no, I get it. It's a pronunciation thing. Roll for initiative. I got it. I almost had to stand up to make sure it didn't go over my head, but no, I like that. I absolutely love puns like that. And the more obscure and abstract the pun, the better. Because I love trying to get my puns so specific and so abstract that it gets to the point that only one person gets it. And to me, that's a really fun thing, just because then that one person that gets it, you and that person suddenly have a really close bond and connection made out of nothing but sarcasm. And there's something beautiful about that, if you ask me. Just that recognition that, like, that guy gets it. That guy knows what I'm talking about. No, I like that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think going through here, and it's just going to be a small one, right? It's just going to be a small mystery within this singular sort of dwarven household that we're making. And I'm trying to think about the nature of it. And one thing that can help us sort of decide the nature of it is the fact that we are going to be putting a treasure in there. So that immediately says to me that the puzzle is going to be related to giving the players the chance to try and find just sort of like a safe or a lockbox of sorts that the family that once lived in this now long abandoned home would have hidden their valuables in. So the puzzle becomes trying to find and access this hidden trove of goodies. Give me 1 second here. Just need to manage a couple things. Always too much going on in my life at one time. Let's see here. Okay, good enough. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind immediately goes. The thing is, though, is I like to try and avoid having the puzzle just be some sort of like, oh, the puzzle is that it's locked. And I don't always do a good job of avoiding that. I like to try and make things kind of more interesting than that. So, like, if it's going to be a lockbox, I like to then have it be some sort of combination padlock situation where there are clues within the household or the room that it's in that discuss or that give players ultimately what the passcode would be for it. So if we were to put just a standard padlock situation that would need I'm sorry, one more thing I gotta manage here. Okay, all right, sorry. Always too many things to manage. So that's kind of what my thought is here. Yeah, so the one hesitation I have about leaning too heavily in that is that's the exact kind of puzzle we did earlier in this dungeon here. So we have our first set here, which is we had, I think it was in this room. No, it was in this room right here. We had a chest that was exactly that. We had clues about someone's birthday. That was the passcode to the thing. And I don't like using the same puzzle mechanic within a singular sort of chapter just because that gets too predictable and it's kind of too easy for players, and it's more fun to have something different. So I'm wondering if the better thing would be, instead of having the puzzle be finding the passcode, rather the puzzle is simply finding where this sort of set of valuables is hidden within the household, right? So it's like we know it's going to be a hidden set of goods that's within here, but maybe it's well hidden, and so the challenge is finding and accessing the treasure itself. So it's like maybe there's a 3-step system to reveal the door that's carved into the stone wall or something, right? And we have a lot of opportunities to do that kind of stuff because we're talking about dwarves that are underground, living within just areas that are carved out, bits of mountain wall and everything. So I'm thinking that could work for us pretty well like that. Oh, a Diabolical Trap. Alright, you already got me interested. Opens up to a room, no enemies. Also, floors are painted white. Walls, 2 doors. Between them is painting, 1 word. Word is overthinking. So the doors are unlocked. But any rogue will try to pick a door. They pick it, no result. Just and like I'm assuming the solution is simply opening up one of the doors and leaving or something like that, right? I absolutely love. Yeah, okay. That's fair. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I love. And that's why within any given dungeon, like a dungeon that's full of dangerous rooms that have traps and like different traps and horrible things, monsters, puzzles, all that kind of stuff, I always make sure to have at least one room that just has nothing. It's just a room, nothing in there, because that will 100% bother players more than any other room that I can make for them. 100% it would do that. 100%. No, I love that kind of stuff, and I understand exactly what you're saying. So let's see here. So if we're gonna be in here, I like the idea of there being a treasure box carved into the wall. And I almost want to make it so that it's really obvious. The players can see that there's like a doorway carved into the wall that suggests there might be something behind there, some sort of secret door that's got something in there. And what I want to do is almost make that obvious, and then have it be something like it's unlocked by like pulling down on the chandelier or something like that. And within there are just a couple clues that can be discovered in different ways. So one of them is just if they investigate close enough, they can see that the chandelier isn't bolted to the ceiling, but rather the chain for the chandelier goes through a hole in the ceiling, right? To suggest like, oh, the chandelier is just bolted to the ceiling. There's something going on up there, right? Or that the chandelier has maybe between two of the candles on the chandelier are particularly worn down, and it looks like there's been like hands that would grab and pull it repeatedly. You know, putting in clues like that. So the puzzle is basically just them noticing clues and then finding enough and understanding the concept of, oh, we should yank on this and it will open up the thing, you know, including maybe shoved in a bookcase in this room, a note that says something like, you know, something along the lines of like, you know, assuming a couple lived there. It's like, hey, honey, I put the money in the lockbox. Check the chandelier if you need extra for groceries this week. Just something really inane like that, but it like kind of gives that hint like, oh, there's a connection here. Investigate that, and just kind of make it so that we have a few different ways depending on what players try to do and where they try to look. That'll give them the hints they need to figure out what they have to do. The tread gazebo, that's a classic. Oh, that's a classic. Yeah, I love that one. Well, like the history of that story too. Isn't the history of that story just that the player didn't know what a gazebo was? He thought it was a monster. He didn't realize a gazebo was just a small wooden structure that usually sits in a park or something, which is hilarious to me. That like their first thought was to attack something as opposed to ask what a gazebo is. And it's one of my favorite things. I love that. I love that story. I tell that story every chance that I get to especially to like new players, just to explain to them the absurd hilarity that happens with this, that has nothing to do with how much of a nerd or a dork you are or anything. It's just all about you goofing around with your friends. I love it. I love it. So let's see here. Okay, so we're going to puzzle. I like the idea of it being here, so of it being sort of that they have to interact with the environment in some way to access the treasure. And the thing that I really like about this too is it makes it so that there's definitely a reward for success here, but there's not going to be anything that's preventing them from progressing through the rest of this dungeon if they don't figure it out. That's always a hard thing about putting a challenging puzzle, you know, like a riddle or something that's in the way of the primary goal of the dungeon or the campaign, is you don't want to put them in a situation where bad rolls can flat out stop them from progressing. You never want to do that. And so the fact that bad rolls just means they don't get extra treasure is perfect, because it will, I guarantee you, it will make them sit there and panic about what they missed, but it won't be detrimental to them progressing. And the other thing that's good about that is it gives you as a DM the freedom to stick to the consequences of them not succeeding, because it can be very easy to, you know, if they have to be able to discover something, if they have to find something through investigation, or they have to pick a lock, right, you're kind of forced to allow them to just retry and retry and retry until they get the appropriate dice roll, in which case you might as well have not even put it behind a roll block, right? But if it's something like this, if they fail that roll, you can just be like, you failed. You failed. You don't know what there is. You don't know how to get that. You just cannot figure it out. And you can really put your foot down and say, like, hey, that's how this game is played. If you fail, you fail, and you have to move on. You have to figure out how to go beyond it. And so it's a really good way to enforce that without actually inhibiting your players in any meaningful way as far as like progressing through the story goes. So I think this is really good, and I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna just put a DM note here, opening it up, and say, we'll say, no required number of successes to access the treasure. Say no required numbers of successes to access the treasure. We will say finding any clue will require DC 14 check, since that's kind of our prescribed difficult check for here. So whatever they try, they'll need to get a 14 or better to do it, which isn't too difficult, but it's difficult enough that it won't really be a gimme for any of them, because they're all going to be about level 5 at this point. And like being at level 5 with a 14, that's a really good number for, it's like, if the players are playing to their strengths and using what they're good at to try and solve this, they shouldn't have a problem. But if they're just trying anything willy-nilly, they could still end up struggling to figure out what to do next if they want to access the treasure chest. And that's a really good balance to strike. It's a really good balance to strike, especially at level 5 too, because if you have if you have new players, right, if you started this campaign at level 1 with a bunch of new players, there's going to be a lot of learning for them to do in terms of starting to understand how to do that, how to play to their strengths. And at level 5 is about the time when new players should have really picked up on that. And so now's your chance to really start, like I say, enforcing that and getting them to realize, like, oh, we have to do that if we want to have the success we're looking for in this game. So I think that's a good level. We'll just do that there. We're going to offer up just a basic description, and then I'm going to do separate bullet points for all of the different clues here. So this home appears to have been home to only 2 dwarves centuries ago. Actually, I'm not. Yeah, we'll leave it at centuries ago when it was last inhabited. We'll say, I'm gonna just hand them the gimme and say, you notice on one wall there appears to be a carved out rectangle, as though there is a door carved into the wall. There is no obvious handle, and pressing or otherwise fussing with the door yields no results. Results. There we go. Boom. So we'll do that. Okay, let's see here. They had asked if he could use the arms and equipment guide. He could make his own starting gear. You fool. You only ever do that if you're there monitoring. Masterwork war axe. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's always a risk. And that's like, but like the thing is, I feel you. That's a hard one to enforce, because you get players that are so excited about trying this, that, or the other thing, and you don't want to, especially if they're new players, you don't want to dissuade that enthusiasm that they have, that excitement they have about different items and possibilities and character stuff. So you want to allow that, but you have to remember and be firm, because there is a reason that the rules are written as they are, and it's exactly to avoid those types of things. So that can be one of the challenge. Oh well, yeah. So if you already knew him, then yeah, no, that's on you. Then that's on you, you fool. No, even so, I get it. Sometimes that can be even harder, right? Sometimes that can be even harder if you know the person beforehand, because you're, again, like, you want to give them the game they want to play, but like there comes a point where if you're too loose with the rules, then you're not playing a game, you're basically just writing a book, right? And that's a different thing. That kind of takes the game out of it, and it just kind of is, it turns into everyone just sitting there imagining, going like, wouldn't it be cool? And going like, oh yeah, that would be cool. And then another person saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool though? And just this back and forth session of everyone always doing exactly what they want, which isn't a game. And maybe that's fun, but no, I get it. It can be tough to be firm in those scenarios, which is one of the reasons why a good DM is so valued, because a good DM isn't afraid to be firm. Although the thing is, a good DM is only willing to be firm because they've learned the hard way exactly those situations, and so they know from experience it's better to be firm than it is to be too loosey-goosey with everything. But no, I feel you. I feel that pain. So let's see here. So let's just put a list of clues here. We'll do clue 1. The chandelier is not bolted to the ceiling, but rather the chain runs through a small hole in the ceiling. Clue 2. Clue 2, the chandelier has a lot of wearing between the candles, the canals. That sounds like a weird slang for something. The canals. I'm cradling the canals. Anyway, the chandelier is a lot of. That's a different stream. I should avoid that one. Hey, at least you recognize it. At least you recognize it and can do better, right? Like that's the mark of a good DM right there. Is like recognizing the things you've done wrong and making whatever necessary adjustments you have to not do it again in the future. So that's here. A lot of wearing between the candles. Wear and tear. Either way, it's kind of arbitrary. I'll go with what you say. Wear and tear. Between the candles of the has a lot of wear between the candles. Suggesting it's been handled much more than a chandelier normally would be. So we can do that, and then clue 3. A note on the bookshelf reads, let's see here. We'll say I put the potions in the safe. Check the chandelier if you need any. Boom. There's the hint, and that's like the coded message that they would leave each other, something like that. It's not like no one would actually say that. That'd be like me saying like, oh, I hid the potions. Check under the bed if you need them, right? If I said that because I hid it in a bin that's under the bed, like it's obviously kind of a giveaway. But like, I don't know. We're just creating a game, and so sometimes you have to suspend disbelief for the sake of providing clues and necessary items for the game to go about. Luckily, that's clue 3. So that's like, that really only comes up if 3 people are looking for clues and all 3 of them find one. You know? Because like any success would be to just find one of those clues. So, we'll do that. But now let's go ahead and get our treasure figured out. Now for the treasure, as always, I'm taking the easy way out. I have found this loot gen tool. It's wonderfully helpful. It does all the rolls automatically. from the Dungeon Master's Guide and provides you with just a reasonable loot. That's perfect. I need to double check here. I always set the value of that loot to whatever the highest difficulty enemy within that section of the dungeon is. So in this one, the highest difficulty is a challenge rating 3 with a doppelganger. So we're going to leave it to our 0 through 4, roll our loot here. So we've got 153 gold pieces. I'm not bothering to divvy it up between silver and copper. I suppose I can add a bit of a descriptive element to this too and just say, when you finally open the pesky wall safe, you find a modest but still useful pile of money and items. There we go. So we can do that. Let's see here. Couple of earth silk shirts, clothes basket. Sure, I mean, you can do stuff like that. My players tend to not be super into itemizing things like that. But I mean, it's not a bad idea. I usually just go with whatever's rolled on there just because that's the simplest way to do it. So stone 3-5 is a source. Gotcha. Yeah, see, so this is taking place in 5th edition. This is a 5th edition one, so I'm definitely going to be sticking with 5th edition stuff just because that's the rule books that my players have access to because they all basically utilize the library, and the library has 5th edition. It doesn't have anything older than that. So I'm going to be sticking with that. Stuff to make it look... Oh, I mean, the fluff. Now, when we get to designing our rooms, we'll definitely add plenty of stuff like that, for sure. It's a broom of flying. There we go. Look at that. There we go. It's a broom of flying, but it's been misused. It's been misused all along. So we're just going to copy this and paste it in here. Oh, wait. Hold on. How much gold was there as well? 153 gold. 153 GP. And then we'll just paste that there. Make ourselves whatever edits we need to make here. Let's go ahead and take the links off of there, because I don't want to accidentally click on it and have things going crazy. And I'm going to move that just because it doesn't make sense to me why they put it there. So 25 gold piece art project or art objects. And then this one has 2. Again, I like to put that in front. There we go. And then a broom of flying, which I think is hilarious. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to get rid of the broom of flying. That wouldn't fit in a safe. I'm just going to... They don't need a broom of flying. That's a little too hocus pocus for my taste. So we'll just leave it at that. That's perfectly fine flavor for them. And so it's like that's just where they kept all of their valuable stuff, and they would put it in there, and it's good enough. Good enough there. Like I say, I'm not too worried about the details of that. I don't want to necessarily spend hours itemizing every single home, per se. But what will help here is we can put in a few things in our room design here that'll make it look more homey, so to speak. Let's see here. So we want to put our chandelier here. Is it going to do that weird thing where it... Yeah. Okay. So put a nice chandelier just right in the center. We have to have the chandelier. It's a key part of it. Yeah, Broom of Flying really isn't dwarf flavor. Although that would add to the fun, amusing flavor of there being a Broom of Flying lying in the corner, but the dwarves didn't know, and so they were just using it as a broom. And so I actually really like that idea. I like that idea. I'm going to do this. Check this out. Check this out. Also, not in the safe is a broom of flying. So it's like they had no idea. And so the only way the players will know is if they do like a detect magic or something like that and would realize that the broom is magical. I'm going to put a DM note here just so I remember. So we're going to say mention the broom, but do so casually. My goodness. Casually. There it is. Casually. only betray that it is magical if they detect magic. That's perfect. It's not as safe as a broom of flying. The dwarves never knew and just used it as a broom. That's perfect. I think that's hilarious. And the best part about it is if they do detect magic and they do it while they're outside of that room, that house, so that suddenly they're like, oh, shoot, there's a magical item somewhere around here. And they start searching for it. And they just like, because they're totally going to overlook the broom. And unless they explicitly look at the broom and be like, is that magical? And then I can have them make an Arcana check. Unless they basically do explicitly that, I'm not going to tell them because the dwarves don't know. The dwarves won't know. I think that's really funny. I actually really like that. That's perfect. That is excellent. All right, so let's finish decorating our room here. So we need to just use, like, we need to put some beds and tables in here. We're just gonna just go to the used here. So we'll put like a little bed. We'll give them a little bed that they had. We'll put the bed right there. I want to give them a little chimney. Where's the chimney that we've been using? There it is. Just a little hearth there. Put that at the bedside. I don't know. Give that. Maybe they've got a couple stuffed armchairs that they would sit around the fire with or something. I don't know. We already mentioned that there's going to be a bookshelf. Actually, wait, hold on. Undo. I have a better idea on how to organize this. We can, just to fill out the room a little bit better. We'll do that. Where's the bookshelves that we've been using? Been using bookshelves. Here, watch this. We can do that there. Grab this one. Move that a little bit further away. And we can put that just like right there. There we go. Do that right there. Maybe we'll give them a nice little rug. That's camp mat. There we go. Give them like a little rug. Put that under here. Got a rug right there. Let's see here. And let's put table right there. And then da-da, da-da, da-da. Just a few tables scattered around. Do stuff like that. That's perfect. And that looks great right there. It's like just a sense of humor. As long as it doesn't encroach on sadistic, I'll take twisted. I'm okay with that. That's just maybe for flavor. We'll give them like there's like a knocked over bottle left on the table because they left in a hurry. I don't know. They left in a hurry, so there's that and like a knocked over sack of. I don't know if a sack of flour would make sense. I guess it kind of would. You could say it's like a sack of rice that they just had and it got knocked over. I don't know. Maybe by rats afterwards or something like that. Just to give it a little flavor. And then we got to add our light in here. Boom. There we go. There we go. Granted, it's not realistic that this household that's been abandoned for presumably centuries, it would not have lit candles and stuff like that. But because I play online in the Foundry virtual tabletop, that takes into account things like dark vision and stuff. If you have an enclosed space like this and don't provide a light source, it will 100% just leave your players unable to see anything unless they have dark vision. And like, if I have a specific reason for doing that, I will. But generally speaking, I don't like bothering with that in an entirely underground dungeon like we're making right now. Just because like it requires that your players always have to like think about torches and stuff like that. And honestly, that's just more tedium than my players are really interested in. So I'm going to use a spell called Ever-Burning Flame or something like that. I mean, in theory, you could do that. That's not what I imagine is happening here, because this is an abandoned city that's been abandoned for centuries. But it was just a city that normal people lived in. So I don't think many of them were doing those types of, like, mage things within their households. But certainly that's a workaround. But really my thing is just, like, you know, if you want to go really rules tight and really limit your players and like require they use like they follow every rule, yeah, you'll want to avoid doing that because it's much more realistic. But my group plays a pretty rules light, and I tend to lead a pretty rules light. I love when players want to get into the mood of like having to keep track of components and stuff like that, but As a general rule, I find most players don't. And so it's just easier to assume that they're not going to. And if they did want to, then within Foundry, I could just like delete the stuff, like delete the light effects and stuff like that. But this just makes it easier. Because the other thing about it is the presumption with Dark Vision and the way Foundry Virtual Tabletop works is that unless you're actively in that room, even with Dark Vision, you can't see anything. So the map will disappear for players as they're going around. Which is atmospheric enough, but when you think about walking through a dark room, you still have a sense of place within that room, right? Or within, like, if you're in a like a dark, oh my goodness, hold on. Woo. Excuse me. If you're in like a dark basement or something, you still have a sense of space. You still understand if you walk out of a room and then walk one direction, you still kind of understand where that room is. But it's really hard. There's two things that really limit that sense, which I think is kind of unfair, that are just inherent in the nature of playing D&D. One of them is we're not used to seeing the world from a bird's eye view. That's not how we do it. So our object permanence, right, is based on being there in person. And so from top down, it's really hard, especially if they leave a room and the game automatically then deletes it and turns that pitch black again. So because of that, that makes it really hard for players to visualize and conceptualize where they're going and what they're doing. And the other thing that's really hard about that is what was that? How do I want to put this? I don't know how to explain it. There's just sort of this sense of, I don't know, whatever. At any rate, it's kind of difficult for players to see things and understand them without having that head down look. Oh, the other thing is, like, just the way to explain it is the characters will of course remember things because they're all doing it live action. With your players, you play for a couple hours, and then you're done for a week, right? If you play once a week. Unless you were to play just, like, constantly, it's hard for a player to remember what a character does. So being able to have lights there that leave the map permanently visible to players makes it much easier for them to fall back into where they were. So it's less realistic, but from a gameplay standpoint, it just makes so much more sense to provide the lights there, even if there's no actual reason for the lights to be there, right? An abandoned underground city that no one has lived in for centuries, presumably. Yeah, why would there be torches? It's the same principle as how bizarre and amusing it is when you're playing Skyrim and you open up a barrel from a tomb that has been sealed for millennia and you find fresh carrots in there. It's like, of course that doesn't make any sense, but sometimes from a gameplay mechanic, that's just how things are. And you leave it that way because ultimately everyone recognizes we're playing a game, you know. And so it's whatever makes the game fun. And most players have much more fun if they can see and visualize the map and use that as one of their tools for strategizing whatever they're doing within that map. So I'm pretty forgiving about all that kind of stuff. The upshot of all of it, the thing to always remember is check with your players about what they want out of the game, because every group's going to be a little different. Some players really will want that level of detail. And like I say, if I'm ever leading a group that does want that, I can just go in and delete these light effects and bada bing, bada boom, we're all good to go. It's not a big deal. It's easier to have it all in there and in place because most players will want it. But if they don't, we're ready for it. So at any rate, thanks for coming to my TED Talk, I guess. So there's that room. I think that looks pretty good. I don't think we need a whole lot more there. We're just trying to create something that's a little bit scenic and atmospheric for them. And we're ready to go on to the next one. But before we do that, I'm going to take just a quick, 3-minute pause. I got to run to the bathroom real quick. I got to refill my beverage just so that way when my throat dries out and I can't talk, I have something to drink. So I'm just going to take a 3-5-minute break. It's not going to take long. I'll be right back. But, you know, I stream for 4 hours straight, and it's a long time to go without, pausing for just a second every now and then. So sit tight. I appreciate your patience ahead of time. I will be right back. I promise you. It won't take long, but I also promise you that you don't want to be here for what I'm about to do. So, I'll be right back. And we're back. There we go. That's the screen. That's the screen that we need. We're not just chatting at this point in time. We are full on. We are full on at this point streaming. But I'm back. I'm back. Thank you for waiting. I appreciate the patience. I much appreciate it. My bladder appreciates it. And let's get back to it. Let's get back to what we've been working on here. Still like that. A broom of flying in the Dwarven household, and they just had no idea. I like that a lot. Alright, so our next room here, get to go ahead and design a battle. Should be pretty easy. Medium battle. Well, it should be pretty medium. Get it? Because it's like a medium battle, not an easy one. So, ha. 800 experience points. So this one should be worth. Let's see. Have we done a medium battle yet? We have not. Let's see here. Sorry, hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's see. We have not done a medium battle yet, which means the world is our oyster and we can do whatever we want with it. Got to be worth about 100 experience points here, or 800 experience points, excuse me. So if we got to figure out 800, got our Nothics worth 450. We could do 2 Nothics. That really wouldn't be too bad. And we can do 4 of the spawn crawlers. We could do a Nothic and 2 spawn crawlers. I almost feel like the Nothics and the spawn crawlers, though, are kind of separate things. Let me just take, because the spawn crawlers are going to be our Zergling looking things, and the Nothics are just people. Like, I feel, it's one of the things that's interesting about this floor in general, is I feel like all of the enemies here are kind of very separate things. Like, we have our Chitines, our core spawn crawlers, our Nothics, and our Doppelganger. And they're all just, like, separate things in a lot of ways, is kind of how I see them. So, that might be kind of difficult to figure out how to do too many different battles, but we'll figure it out. But for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and take the 2. I want to take the 2 Nothic route. I think that's what I want to do here. So 2x Nothic. Those are both worth 450 XP. So I gotta quickly edit this up here. It's gonna be worth 900 ultimately, but I'm okay with that. Let's see here. Let's see here. Hey, Howl Lost. That weird noise I made, like my voice. I don't know what noise you're talking about. Which is, I don't know, maybe just a little bit of evidence about how gross I am. So I got, like the, I don't know what I did. I don't know, like a thinking noise or something like that. Well, I'm glad you came in right at the most awkward point. That's perfect. I feel like that's pretty indicative of how my life goes. People show up and I make awkward first impressions. How we know everything's up. Hey, Smish, how's it going? What bizarre, unrelated anecdote do you have for me today? Can't find the staff these days. Womp womp. Well said. Well said. Let's see here. So we got to come up with a medium battle. We're doing 2 Nothics. I kind of want the Nothics to just be hiding under the bed of this like big house that we've got here, because we got a pretty big thing here. So I almost kind of want there to be just like a couple of beds, and I really want I really want the Nothics to just be hiding under the bed. Like, there's actual monsters under the bed. What do you know about that? I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit to it. So here's what we're gonna do. DC 14 to notice the creatures under the bed before the creatures jump out and get a surprise round in combat. Boom, there we go. Let's give that one there. Need a new artificer armor. Ooh, sounds fancy. Sounds fancy. I believe it's special. I believe that it took you at least more than 1 minute to come up with that clever joke. Your efforts are laudable and to be admired, which is kind of what laudable means. So I'm really just repeating myself. All right. So let's see here. Let's see here. We'll say, walking into this larger home, it looks as though. Looks as through? No, it looks as though whatever Dwarven family was living here must have had a few children, given the number of beds. Let's see here. Given the number of beds, let's see here. Like every other abode you've seen so far, it appears this home was left in a hurry. Oops, there it is. Nope, there it is. There we go. So there's our Nothic, and then our compass item, which again isn't a literal compass, more so just an item that magically works to give them the meta knowledge and understanding of what items or whether or not there's still something of value to find within any room on this floor. I don't know, very game mechanic-y, not a whole lot of lore explanation for it, but you know what? Sometimes you just make game mechanics because ultimately we're playing a game. There's also not really lore to explain why it is. Someone has to roll a dice to try and hit, a large monster directly in front of them with a hammer. Most people would think that that's a pretty standard thing that you can do, but alas, we're playing a game, so you can't just automatically do it. Anyway. Get on. There we go. Compass. Boom. I don't know. What did I theme the first floor's compass as? How did I theme it? There's a small pin still attached to packaging card. On the card, it says shopkeeper's best tool. This pin, give this pin insight and know that the brighter it glows, the more valuable the items nearby are. Oh yeah, that's right. That's actually kind of a cool. That actually, like, here it's gonna make me eat my own words, because that's almost like a lore explained reason for why they would find something valuable. So we'll say, let's do. I want to offer up. I want to make it a bit of a challenge. Don't want to just like give it to them. Let's say DC 14 to notice the pin, and that it's not just an ordinary pin sitting on a nightstand. Nightstand. There it is. A nightstand. And then we'll just go ahead and in standard writing just say there isn't much of value left in this home. However, you notice a small pin sitting on a bedside table, and I'm gonna put another DM note right here and say, mention that it looks familiar if they found the pin in the first set of rooms among the shops. So if it's that, then it's same thing. So, and then we'll just put here same as the pin in the first set of rooms. Glows bright if something valuable is still in the room they're in. Boom, there we go. Okay, let's see, Artificer. Human with the same disease. Tiny Tim, scale had. Okay, fair enough. The rest comes from outside. Our strength goes to 6 and can only move 20 feet. And if he dashes, he gains a point of exhaustion. Only outside the armor. All right, interesting. I feel it. The big question there is going to be, does the game and the environment create many situations in which you would have to remove said armor? Is going to be the the key element to how often that is an interesting plot point. Because if they're never in a situation where you have to leave the armor, then you know it'll be a bummer for you because you won't have the chance to show off the creative character that you're working on. Gotcha. Can't sleep in the armor. Can't sleep in the armor. That's really cool. Although now you have to, like, if that's the case, now the thing that I can think of is you're gonna have to hope that your DM isn't too much of a brat and doesn't abuse that and have you guys constantly snuck up upon while you're sleeping, which would be a real easy way to exploit that. Which, like, the thing is though is like with balance, because doing that every now and then would make for some really interesting situations, and is something that I think would be really interesting. And like if it were my character, I would appreciate it. But it could definitely be overused. Take the alert feat for the free. Okay, there you go. There you go. That's a good thought, and that'll help balance it for sure. Because that's the one thing. Like I say, and I mean, like, the other thing about it too is, like I say, it becomes less of an issue if your DM isn't a butthead. You know, if that's the case, if your DM's pretty cool, then it's not a big deal. But you know, you never know. You just never know. Let's see here. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's. I really messed up by putting that chandelier in first. To be perfectly honest here. But if we do like that, and there we go. I'm just trying to make it like a double-sized table because it's supposed to be kind of a bigger family that lived here. Was the idea. So I need. There we go. A couple chairs here. Da da. Da, and then here we'll just make one of the chairs broken. Sad busted chair. Put the armor on at the cost of one action. Yeah, I feel like that would probably be an essential thing to kind of make that work. So if there's any reason that you can't use the feat, you know, then yeah, there would be some situations where it would be there, but it gives you that opportunity to like a reason to quickly escape from that limitation when needed. But it's a really interesting concept, and I kind of like characters like that at least have the potential to be very limited in some way, shape, or form, depending on the scenario. I think that's a really cool idea, and I really like when players kind of do that type of stuff. I'm just going to give them like a little sofa, right? Let's see. Give them a light German accent. I am terrible at German accents. I don't even try. Like, to the point where I just kind of figure it's offensive if I do try. So we'll just give them a couple chairs and stuff that they have around. If we do that, and then, I don't know, let's give them a bookshelf or something. Doesn't really matter. We're just trying to make this kind of feel like a home. Put like a bookshelf. Yeah, we'll give them 2 bookshelves. Fancy. There are a lot of kids that had a lot of school books. They needed 2 bookshelves. Oh yeah, well if you're half German, then absolutely that'll be easy for you. I'm 100% American, so that's kind of the only accent that I can reliably do. I try accents, but I'm really bad at it, so I only ever do it when I'm with my players and not streaming live to the world. As I recognize, there's a lot of accidental opportunity to be offensive with it, so best to just avoid it. Best to just avoid. Oh, actually, you know what I should do? I'm going to undo that one. I should give them a hearth. All of them need, like, a fireplace. You're living underground. It's going to be, like, cold and damp if you don't have a fireplace in there somewhere. So, there we go. Okay. Great. Another room. Check. Alright, next one. Easy battle. With an enchantment token. Alright, so first let's think of our easy battle here. Easy battle. So our 400 experience points in this set of rooms here. Okay. If we need 400, we can do 2 of the core spawn crawlers. That wouldn't be bad. And then wait, what's the enchantment token? Okay, hold on. So there's something that I've been working on. This is like an idea that my players presented to me, and I actually really liked. So I'm kind of adopting it. Well, kind of. They suggested components of this, and I've kind of taken those suggestions to heart here. Yeah, and we have already kind of started to do this, which is good. And the idea is that rather than just having a pile of enchantment tokens in a given dungeon, instead it's a token that plays in with components and knowledge necessary to craft a specific item that can be enchanted and is sort of meant to be enchanted with that item. So it kind of gives them a pre-made enchanted item if they want, or they can take the components and do their own stuff with it, right? But it's kind of like I give them a Lego kit that has the instructions, and they can follow the instructions, or they can use the Legos to make whatever they want. Either way, they can do what they want with it. All W's are V's, TH sound to a Z sound. Always talk like you are correct. Always talk like you're correct. I feel like, here's the thing about that one. If we're talking about just demeanor, like, I feel like everyone likes to rag on different cultures for thinking they're superior, but ultimately it's always like, I feel like every culture within their own culture has the tendency to sound and act superior, right? So Americans in America will always sound and act superior, right? Because that's just what it is, and it's really the result of the fact that every culture has ding-dongs that think they're always right and give the entire culture a bad rap. So no matter where you go, there's people that just sound smarmy and people that sound smarmy and holier than thou. Come correct or get corrected. I really like that description for that kind of character trait. That's a good way to describe it. That's a really good way to describe it. That's a very actually personality trait to have. I dig it. I think that's funny. So I wanna have our enchantment tokens rather just be like an enchantment kit, so to speak. What did I do beforehand here? So we had boot shape is a book that discusses properties of a well-made warhammer. That's right. We're gonna do warhammer. We're gonna give them components to make a warhammer because it's a dwarven society. So of course they would have a warhammer, right? Like, what other weapon, what other item would be so ubiquitously dwarven? So I'm gonna do that. So we need to craft their own warhammers during downtime. So use this research portion of attaining the necessary crafting potions to unlock actual warhammer crafting. So if we do the warhammer, components to make the handle, components to make the head, the enchantment token, and then a book that discusses the enchantment that's on the enchantment token, that gives us the 5 pieces so that there's a component for each set of rooms. And so if they find and collect all of them, they have like an easy, ready to make item, or they can just find certain parts of it and that's all. But either way, I think that's perfect. So let's do in this one. So they found the book of knowledge. Let's go ahead and do components for the handle. So in here, I'm gonna actually do this first because I'm thinking of it. And so we're gonna say just enchantment component. And I'm going to change this to being component as well. Component. Just that way I don't get confused about why there's not information on a token for me to present to my players. Let's see here. This home was apparently once the home of a blacksmithing apprentice or hobbyist. hobbyist, is that it? Yeah, there it is. Apprentice or hobbyist. So what's the home of a blacksmithing apprentice or hobbyist? Scattered around are various tools and supplies for blacksmithing, including a small pile of raw ingots that could likely be used to craft a large object of some sort. It's up to them to connect the dots there. So let's see. Okay, what do you got? What do you got? Let's see here. Plan for everything and plan for what the goal is for them. When I get on an adventure, be stuck sitting and dying and doing nothing with his life. I think the end goal is wanting to finish the adventure. Then his illness catches up to him. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So it's like kind of a bucket list type of approach to things, where he's trying to go out with a bang. I like that. I like that. You could almost, well, like the thing that's cool about it is you could kind of have like two warring goals for this character, right? Like the character is realistic about the disease, and so wants to do that whole bucket list thing, but in the process also wouldn't mind finding a way to cure it or something like that. So it's like there's this kind of like internal, and it could be a really good way to sort of drive some character growth, where it's like part of them accepts the life that they've that they're living right now, and it's very imminent end, but then part of them maybe hasn't accepted that and is still desperate to try and find like some sort of cure. So there can be sort of this like warring aspect inside of them to try and know that. Want him to strive to cure it, but don't want it to be. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so it's like the character wants it, but then you as the player have a different idea. For what would be an ending. That's fair. I mean, that's a pretty common writing tool. In that sense, I think that's perfectly fair. So no, I think that's a good idea. And I think you've clearly thought it out pretty well. So I dig it. I definitely dig it. But yeah, let's see. Okay, so we got to come up with an easy battle here. I don't know what monsters do we have to work for. Let's say there's 4 chitines in here. I don't know, why not, right? Let's see here. 4x chitine, all worth 100 XP a piece. And I'm just gonna put a DM note. I always do this. I've gotten really in the habit of putting this in almost every room. Just a note on whether or not there would be any success to trying to sneak open the door. Because I don't... Most players, when they know they're in a dangerous environment, will constantly try to sneak in and out of rooms. And it can be really easy, especially if you have players that are expressive in disappointment. It can be very easy to acquiesce and just say like, okay, yeah, you rolled well, you sneak into the room. But that's just not very realistic, and I feel like it kind of takes away the excitement of succeeding at that if they always succeed at it. So I've gotten in the habit of putting a note about whether or not that's even possible. So like for this situation, right, room 5, this is a pretty small room, and there are 4 chitines already like sandwiched into this room. I'm not going to let it be possible for them to sneak into this room. The fact is there's just too many enemies within, like inside of here, for any of them, for not one of them to notice that a door is opening. So I'm just going to put that note in here ahead of time as a way to just sort of remind myself whenever I do run this campaign in the future that like, hey, that's just not an option here. Like, you have to put your foot down. This one's not the situation where they can do that. So we'll say... sneaking in won't work because there are too many enemies in a small space to not notice anyone opening the door. And that's the kind of thing where you have to kind of like be firm with players, because players will like really desperately, oftentimes they'll desperately beg, like, just let me roll if I see it. That, or they'll like roll without asking if they should roll, and like they'll get a natural 20. They'll be like, oh, but I rolled a 20. It's like, no, a 20 doesn't make the impossible possible. It just means you succeed at the possible as best as possible, right? And so that's always a hard thing. But I always find if you've like premeditatively put that in there and said like, no, this is how this room works, it's a lot easier to be firm and put your foot down. And it's also something that you can, it's a way that you can sort of present to players and be like, look, you can see it right here. I already had it written up, and you know I wasn't sitting here typing while we were playing. So, yeah, never roll unless asked. That's a perpetual challenge as a DM, because people will constantly want to just roll ahead of time. And, like, the worst part about it is 95% of the time they're right. You know, they can just roll because they're making an attack. And it's like, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But then every once in a while, they'll run into a situation where they'll be like, oh, I'm going to stealth, and they roll. It's like, well, no, you just wasted a roll because you cannot stealth in this area. And, I mean, the thing about that, too, is a lot of it depends on the nature of your group. My groups that I'm leading these days, I don't worry too much about that being problematic because they're very amicable people. I play with my friends, so it's really not an issue. But if you're ever playing with, like, strangers or it's a new group, that's definitely stuff that can be difficult to navigate. So the more you've pre-decided all of this stuff, the easier I find it is to navigate that stuff. That's just what I've noticed. So, all right, let's see here. Thing you won't do. He's in the door. For some unfathomable reason, 4 spider people are crowded in this room. They don't speak, so you may never know why they had congregated in here. Just adding a little humor to it, because I'm going to be honest right now, I have no idea why they would be in there, beyond the fact that I needed to put enemies in there, and that was the right amount of of challenge to have in there. Using naughty words. No, it's okay. I'll allow it. Spider orgy. That I mean, you know, it's a possibility, but that's a very different game than we're writing here. That you got to pay extra to see that game. All right, like that's the After Dark episode. It's you guys got to pay me a lot more for that kind of content, I'll tell you what. Alright, easy. Oh, I actually know, before I get ahead of myself, we do have to decorate this one. So this is just like a single person that did that as a hobby. So we're just going to put that right there. Alright, we'll put a bed there, I guess. What else here? I want to put... Because it's like a hobbyist blacksmith, I kind of want to give him like a better like furnace blacksmithing setup here. So it's like we'll do that. They have like a little quenching station. Got an anvil over here. Like a put like a hammer there and maybe some tongs just sitting right there, I guess. Let's see. Play corrected, get corrected. I mean, yeah, that's like, especially, I feel like that's a good line to kind of throw down. Like, to me, and maybe it's just like me knowing how I speak and what my cadence is, but that's definitely one that, like, for me, I would break that one out if I've just had enough. If I've had enough, like if someone is continually doing that same thing again and again, and I'm over it. Like, that's the type of thing I'd be like, look, play corrected, be corrected. And just like with a tone of finality, like, no, we're done talking about this one. You goofed, and that's all there is to it. That's it. I feel like you would have a chair right there too for working on stuff. And then we'll just come down here. Maybe this guy just has like a separate chair. We'll put it like right here so it faces the fire. And then give him a bookshelf. There we go. Looks like a good home. Although I guess I need to put a chandelier and some light. My light tool. Boom. There we go. There we go. It's a nice little home. Oh, you know what I should add? Because I discussed it. I should put some ingots in there. Do they have... I know they've got like metal bars and ingots and stuff, but I don't know what they call them. Apparently not ingot. Let's just do bar maybe. Nope. Okay, well, I think if we go over here, we can find blacksmith, and we can find, what do they call it? Metal bar. What the? I searched bar. Hold on. Did I just not see it there? Oh, it's right up there. Okay, it looked like a rug to me. Okay, well that's on me. I take it back, game. That's on me. That was my lack of observational skills. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in. We're just gonna give him like a big stack of stuff here. It's like kind of organized. See, we can just like do stuff like that to make it look a little like messy and stuff. And do it just like that. There we go. Got a pile of metal ingots and stuff. Beautiful. See, this is I'm immediately I already recognize the flaw in having done this dwarven suburb thing, and that flaw being that we have a lot of rooms that just ultimately look very much the same. And it's going to be very monotonous going through this section of the dungeon, which isn't necessarily a horrible thing. It's not the worst thing that could have ever happened, but it's definitely it's definitely limiting in terms of being able to add flowery language to distinguish different rooms from one another. But whatever. Worst things have happened in the world. Alright, easy battle, 400 experience points. What have we done already? We did 4 kitings, 2 nothics. We could just put one of our spawn crawlers. Oh wait, hold on a second. Oh, hold on, I goofed this up. This should not have... Oh wait, no, that's the medium battle. Wait, what did I do for the easy battles? 4 kitings. There it is. And 2, we already did 2 core spawn crawlers, so we'll just do 1 nothic in this one. That's fine. That works. There we go, I figured it out. 1 nothic. This is okay, we're gonna get a little silly with it here. I need to edit this really quickly. I'm gonna get a little silly with it. I'll just say, no sneaking in. No sneaking in. Just let the strange humor happen to mix things up. Here, as soon as you enter, this room is obviously different than the rest you've seen. A small fire burns in the fire pit, and a silhouette, is that it? I never remember how to spell silhouette. I never remember where that H goes. Silhouette. There it is. Small fire burns in the fire pit, and a silhouette suggests something is sitting in the lounge chair facing the fire. In your head, you hear a voice that says, "I've been expecting you." the chair awkwardly spins around, scraping the stone floor as the creature struggles to swivel. There it goes. To swivel it around. Sitting in the chair is a Nothic, watching you with one big eye. Oops. There you go. Just make it amusing. I don't know. It's ridiculous and absurd, but that's what happens. It's just sitting there, and all of a sudden turns around. I've been expecting you, and it's like the Nothic, because they've got like those like psychic powers and stuff like that. So I don't know. It just seems like a fun way to just showcase that a little bit for players. Okay, potions. All right, so I'm thinking for this one, the potions, and a shelf in this house is a small collection of bottles and vials. Most are empty, but you do find a few that seem to have a potion still in them. And so we're gonna give them 3 greater healing potions, and then I'm gonna just quickly check game rules. We want to go to magic items. I'm gonna look at the potions here. I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right. I was gonna give them like potion of strength or something like that. Potion of giant size, not quite. Potion of giant strength, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Yeah, we'll give them a potion of hill giant strength. There's 2 of those, we'll say. 2x potion of hill giant strength. That seems like a pretty dwarven thing to do, right? Like if they're a miner, they would really want to get some good strength going when they're trying to get them hammer swings in and all that kind of stuff. That seems likely to me. So let's go ahead and decorate this one up with that. So let's see here. Let's go to used. Just makes it easier that way. Let's see here. Give them their fireplace right here. There, and then we'll just like put our single chair right there. I've been expecting y'all. Do that. Oops. Do that. And like the thing that I think seems even funnier is if just like shoved in a corner is another chair. Like as if this creature intentionally set all of this up exactly like this. I don't know why this concept amuses me, but it's immediately amusing to me. And I'm pretty ready to commit to this and just let this be how this place is designed. It makes little sense, but you know, sometimes you just got to do things for the amusement of it. Like I'm always saying, there's nothing wrong with a DM making their own fun out of these games, however they have to. Let's see here. We'll put one tipped over chair. And wait, where is it? Where did the chairs go? Not the lounge chairs. Hello. Oh, they were. I just didn't scroll up high enough. Ah. There we go. We'll do that. So we do that. What am I forgetting? What can I do with this big open space here? Oh, I don't know. Maybe this person just has like another big table that like they liked to build models or something. So I actually wait, hold on. Easier just do it this way. I don't know. Why not? They just got a particularly big table that they would do stuff on from time to time. I don't know. But yeah, you walk in and there's the guy. He's like, I've been expecting you. TikTok, Clarice. Alright, let's get our light tool here. Boom. There we go. Let's see here. What time is it? We got time. I bet you we can squeeze one more room in before we got to call it a writing stream for the day. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's do it. We're making really good progress today, and I would not mind making a little bit more. I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? We're sitting down here so that we can accomplish things. It's the whole point. The whole point. If we didn't want to accomplish anything, we would just put it on the just chatting category and sit here and do exactly that. We wouldn't work on anything in the meantime. Medium battle. Oh, wait, hold on. So the medium battles are going to have 800 experience points a pop. So we already did the 2 Nothics. I kind of want to do... Oh, this would be a really good one to do a bunch of core spawn crawlers, and I have an idea for this already. Oops, wait, hold on a second, though. I did that wrong. 800 XP. Oh, XP. There we go. And I want to do 4x spawn crawler. Right? Core spawn crawler. I was just going to say, I knew I was forgetting a word in there. 4x core spawn crawler. Again, this is going to be one that doesn't have any sneaking. That's a lot of enemies in a single room here. No sneaking in. However, room only starts with 2 crawlers. One gets added after the first round of combat, and one more gets added after 2 rounds. We'll make this interesting, because I've got an idea on how this can mix things up and make it a bit more interesting. Hey, Gabby, how's it going? Good to see you. Okay, so let's do that. And we'll go ahead and say, doing all right. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Hopefully you're doing well as well. Okay, one more after. Okay, so as you enter this room, you do so at the same time as a creature of monstrous nature. That same time as a creature's nature crawls out of a hole in the floor. The floor to join one of a similar nature that was already there. The 2 creatures see you enter and let out blood-curdling screams. Blood-curdling screams of aggression, and immediately charge you. There we go. So they got to do that, and there's like more of them will come in, and that'll be an interesting thing. And so then we got to do some treasure here. Oops. There we go. So what I want to do for this one, I have an idea here. We'll say the treasure is deep in the tunnel. It's deep in the tunnel. It's unknown why the spawn crawlers wanted the treasure, but it looks like they were staging it deeper in the tunnel for later extraction back to wherever they came from. So we can do that, and then we just got to put in a treasure. So we'll just say as you make your way through the tunnel, it grows smaller and more claustrophobic with every inch. Eventually, wow, why do I keep adding that R in there? Eventually, my God, I'm struggling. You can tell that it's getting close to the end of the writing stream here because my fingers are not responding and my brain is just not interested in paying attention. More claustrophobic with every inch. Eventually, you reach a point that you cannot easily pass. At this point, there is a small pile of canvas bags that all have a few valuables in them, suggesting the crawlers were trying to take as if the crawlers were trying to take the loot with them. Boom, there we go. And then inside we can just kind of give them a little bit of random loot. We'll just go ahead and pull up our loot generator again. Our highest difficulty, I believe, is still at the point that it's either challenge rating 4 or below. Let's see. Doppelgangers, challenge 3. Yep, okay, so we're gonna leave it as a smaller one. The hordes will get bigger as they go. Let's see here. Alright, 182 gold. 82 GP. Alright, and we got, let's see here, lots of art objects, and then, oh, a potion of climbing. That's an interesting one. Kind of fitting, honestly. So we'll go ahead and put both of those in there. I do want to get rid of that. Let's see. Climbing, and then we want to get rid of our links here. Link. Remove link. There we go. So these are, I just always put the 7 up front there. Making an SMR sub race. Interesting. Interesting. Let's see. We're 75 gold in total. Small bracelets. We got 2 of these. It's an interesting concept, SMR sub race, because like the lore at least, so the SMR are kind of in and of themselves a sub race, like a modifier on top of any other race you wanted to make them. It's more so like they're almost more like an angelic version of any other race. So it's an interesting concept to me. Okay, so we want to do that. There we go. There. And now let's go ahead and quickly decorate this, and then we're probably going to be at a point where we can call it. So I want to go object tool. I'm pretty sure they actually have little hole. Yeah, they have little hole objects in here. I want it to be a bit smaller and more claustrophobic. So I'm going to put that right there. Ooh, I actually like that one better. We'll do that right there, just like that. Alright. And now let's go to use, so we can just do... No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Celestials is a very wide range, very wide description of creatures. That's very true. Alright, so we'll put the bed right there. Put that right there. Oh wait, oops, I'm in the wrong room. What am I doing? What am I doing? There we go. Put that right there. There we go. Wait, hold on. I want this bed. Oh, not that bed. That's the crib. I want this bed. Let's see. That's what we're looking for. Boom. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. That's a good distinction. Well said. So we'll do that. And then actually, I kind of want to do the tipped over chair. Like right there. As if the hole, like them burrowing out of the hole kind of made that chair fall over. Do that right there. Put a small table like right there. Put another chair. Oops, we need the chairs to go under. Like that. There we go. And then we'll give this guy a rug. put the rug like right there or something like that. There we go. Good enough. Good enough. And then I'll put that right there. Get our light tool. Put that right there. There we go. Perfect. That's really good. I actually like that idea. They just go in there and it's like, hey, that's where those things are coming from. Found the answer there. And then if they want to get all claustrophobic and go through that, they can do whatever they want. You know, they whatever floats their boats. Whatever floats their collective boats. So, excellent. All right. And then that brings us, like, perfectly to our time limit here. So, awesome. I'm really glad. I'm really happy with the progress we made. We finished, how many rooms is that? We finished 5 whole rooms. That's really good progress for one day. I'm really happy about that. Excellent stuff. Really great stuff. Super duper team. But with that, I am going to go ahead and call it a writing stream. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to take a break, maybe about 15 minutes or so. Just, you know, rest my voice a little bit, run in the bathroom, all that good stuff. All that good stuff that really just does not make for good streaming. Even in reference to my amateur streams. Like, there's limits to even what I would consider acceptable here. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break. And then in like 15, 20 minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to do some gaming. Today, Mondays are our RPG, our, you know, story-heavy games, as we're doing now that I'm trying to make an initiative of playing a wider variety of games. So today we're doing our story-heavy game, which means we are continuing our run of Neverwinter Nights, which I think we're getting pretty close to finishing Chapter 2 of that one. So we'll see how far along we get in that one. But that's what's going to happen. We're going to play that. So if you want to see that, stick around. If you're just here for the writing, then here's where we'll say farewell. I will just go ahead and offer, in case that's the case for any or all of you, I am going to go ahead and just quickly do my plugs here. If you want some up-to-date, you know, announcements about what's going on with the stream and all that kind of stuff, if you want to just kind of be part of a community that talks about a lot of homebrew type stuff, you can get yourself signed up with my Discord server. The link to that is on my Twitch page. Feel free to get yourself signed up. We'll get you in, and that's a good place, like I say, especially to get like announcements and updates on you know, status of streaming on any given day. So there's that one there. The other thing is, if you want to go back and see anything I've worked on beforehand, see different games I've played, see what other types of projects I've worked on with writing, you can find all of my VODs. I put them on my YouTube channel. Again, that is linked on my Twitch page, so please feel free to check that out if that's of interest as well. The other thing I'm just going to mention, so my usual streaming schedule is Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. This week is going to be a little different. Tomorrow I am unlikely to stream, and Thursday is a big fat maybe right now. I have some family stuff that I have to take care of, and so because of that, tomorrow is going to be a busier day at work, because then I'm going to be out of town all of Wednesday and part of Thursday. So I have to get a lot of extra work done tomorrow, which will take up some time and probably get in the way of streaming. And then Thursday, it all depends on if I leave and get home in time. I'm hoping to at least be home late enough or early enough to do a little bit of video game streaming, but we'll see how all of that pans out. But so Tuesday and Thursday are going to be a little weird this week. I'll try and update on the Discord about whether or not I'll actually be streaming. But then Friday, I 100% intend to be back to do some streaming in time for some chill gaming and all that kind of stuff leading into the weekend. So this week's a little weird. It's unforeseen, unexpected, but it will not be the norm. Normally, I will do my Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. So appreciate your patience and understanding on that one. Hopefully next week we'll be back to our usual schedule, and we'll have some fun with things not getting, you know, thrown through a loop out of nowhere. So with that, I'm going to call it a stream. Again, thank you so much to everyone who joined me. It's so much fun doing these. I really love doing these streams, and I'm just always flattered that anyone at all likes to come in here and see what I'm up to. I always say it's really cool to show interest in the things that people make, and so I think it's really flattering that you're showing interest in the things that I make. I appreciate it. So yeah, that's all I got. So thank you for joining me. Like I say, if you want to stick around, hang out a little bit longer, I will be back in gaming in about 15-20 minutes. So hang out or check back. Otherwise, take care of yourself, and hopefully I will see you later this week. Either way, I appreciate each and every one of you. Y'all are cool people. Keep doing that. And yeah, I'll be back in a little bit.